Thank you, everyone. If I may, I will call the meeting tonight to order. This is the August 24th, 2020 Board of School Directors Legislative Meeting here in Upper Dublin School District, being held via Zoom. And first, I would like to begin with a group recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And typically we do the roll call. Dr. Yanni, I see a new agenda item, item C, and I don't have a note for that. Ms. Evans, I think that's an error.
I don't see what you're looking at. I apologize.
That's fine. So we'll move on to roll call, please, Ms. Evans.
Yes. Dr. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Henderson?
Present.
Ms. Ioniti?
I see Ms. Ioniti.
Present.
There we are. Thank you.
Dr. Levinowitz?
Present.
Mr. Rapsky?
Present.
Ms. Sherpier?
Present.
Mr. Sirota?
Present.
Mr. Wallach?
Present.
And Ms. Franczyk?
Present.
All present. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you. All right. This evening, I just would like to start by sharing a few thoughts. I'd first like to thank everyone for joining tonight's meeting. Once again, we find ourselves together preparing to discuss several challenging and critical issues for the district. The last few months, I have presented the most difficult decisions that we as a board have ever made. I wanted to share a bit about the way in which we come to our decisions. I apologize, there is a ringing phone in the background. As a board, we receive regular, often daily updates from Dr. Yanni regarding his meetings with state and local officials, including the Pennsylvania Department of Education, the Department of Health, officials in Montgomery County, area superintendents and intermediate unit officials, medical professionals, and others. Keeping up with the deluge of information, sometimes containing conflicting or inconclusive data, has made the decision-making process that much harder. When it came time to determine a plan for this fall, everything moved very quickly. There is no pandemic playbook for school boards. And in hindsight, I recognize that it may have seemed an abrupt turn of events for the board to approve the district's health and safety plan while simultaneously asking for the plan not to be implemented for in-person instruction until at least November. As a board president, I will continue to strive for ever better communication. I wish there was a guide for how to handle all of this. During last month's meeting, it was my hope and intention that if we made a decision and committed to it, that the district staff would have time and focus needed to create an outstanding Cardinal Academy and to troubleshoot the inevitable issues that would arise. It also afforded families the most time possible to adjust to the new situation. While I know that we got off to a bit of a rocky start on our path to virtual learning, I have seen so many positives occurring as we have moved forward toward the start of the year. Communications from the district have been frequent and detailed. We truly appreciate Dr. Yanni's Touch Base Tuesdays, last week's Zoom Administrators Forum, this week's evening information sessions, the weekly sharing of updated COVID-19 metrics, and the Cardinal Academy information sessions, honestly, just to name a few. Hundreds of teachers across the district have rallied to participate in voluntary training on the delivery of blended and virtual instruction. Last week, the district distributed elementary homeroom assignments and secondary schedules earlier than usual, which began to excite our students for the coming year while allowing families to continue their planning process. These are just a few examples of our exceptional community. Tonight will be another in which we will discuss difficult issues that affect the lives of Upper Dublin students, staff, and families. Frankly, it's clear this won't be the last time. Know that we are continually trying to balance the best interests of all members of the community with the realities of our new normal. We won't make everyone happy, we know that, but we are dedicated to each of you and will continue to do our best. Next up, we would typically have our Student Government Association report. There is none this evening. So now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Yanni for your report.
Thank you, Mrs. Franczyk, and good evening, everyone. We're just a few weeks away from the start of the school year, and in fact, next Monday, our professional staff comes back to work. As Mrs. Franczyk noted, we've had many teachers engaged in professional learning over the last couple of weeks. Our teachers are required to complete staff development hours every year. And in addition to that, we also provided some flexibility in trading out some time that they would have spent during the school year on a traditional professional learning day to do some professional learning over the summer. I'm really pleased and very proud of what I see our teachers producing as we plan and prepare for the new school year. One of the things that I hope came out loud and clear last Thursday evening in the leadership team panel discussion was the intentionality with which we are planning everything that we have for our kids. As you know, we have a universal start and end time to the school year. One point of clarification, and we'll make this clarification in tomorrow's Touch Base Tuesday. The one part of the universal schedule that does not match up is there's overlap time with lunch times, but they're not all exactly the same. But there are overlap times, and the idea of a universal schedule and overlapping lunchtime really came as or from discussions that we had last spring with families at multiple levels trying to navigate helping their children throughout the day. So we wanted to take some of the pressure off by having a common start and end time, and also providing some time in the middle of the day where there would at least be some time to overlap. One of the things I want to stress again, because I'm still hearing it, is the spring was so difficult. How is the fall going to be different? The fall is going to be different because of the level of synchronous instruction that will be provided for all students. We will be doing service delivery synchronously. There will be both synchronous and asynchronous activities for students to do. There will be far more contact time between students and teachers than we had in the spring. We all know that the spring was a challenge, but respectfully, the spring was in the past, and we can't keep going back and having those conversations about what was wrong in the spring. There has been an incredible amount of planning done to get the new school year up and running in the very best way that we can. And I am confident that our teachers and our staff will do great things for kids. Are there going to be bumps in the road? Absolutely. But remember what I said at the end of our leadership team panel discussion. Our kids are watching and our kids are listening. And so how we navigate those bumps in the road will really dictate how our kids perceive those bumps in the road. Several folks have asked about the metrics that we're looking at to determine when it's safe to open schools. The Pennsylvania Department of Education has released a dashboard that looks at countywide numbers. We look at the countywide positivity rate. We look at the incident rate. The updated dashboard will come out in tomorrow's Touch Base Tuesday communication. Again, the rules of the road set forth by the Department of Health and the Department of Education are that we look at countywide numbers. So I know many folks have emailed me and said, well, when you look at our local Upper Dublin numbers, they're better than the county. But remember, the rules of the road, the parameters that we have to work within are countywide numbers. So tomorrow's Touch Base Tuesday will review all of that data again, as promised, and every week we will update the community as to where we are in terms of metrics. It is my goal, it's the leadership team's goal, it's the staff's goal, it's the board's goal. It's our universal goal to get kids back in school Monday, November 9th. And so we need to do everything we can to make sure that not only our local numbers are staying low, but we need to do everything that we can so that we do not negatively impact countywide numbers. Because again, the rules of the road are countywide numbers. So look forward to our weekly Touch Base Tuesday coming out tomorrow. And now for the big announcement. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who sent emails over the weekend about sports. I want to talk a little bit about sports and activities, and I want to start off by saying that the information that I'm going to share with you now is an administrative decision. And so the reason that you don't see a board agenda item tonight for sports and activities is because there doesn't need to be a vote to do what I'm about to talk about. I'm going to go over some parameters for both sports and activities, and I am sure that there are going to be things that I'm going to say that people are going to cheer and champion, and then there will be things that I'm going to say that probably won't be popular. Again, we want to do everything we can to make sure that we get kids back in school in November. So let's talk about extracurriculars on a global scale, athletics and activities. We know that if we don't provide any athletics or any activities in our district, kids will find those opportunities elsewhere. But if we're really being equitable and we really care about doing all we can to support kids, then we will offer some of our own athletics and activities so that families and students don't have to find them elsewhere, because some of those outside, outside of the district activities come at a hefty price tag. So tomorrow in our Touch Base Tuesday, we'll be talking about the process of opening up some activities and also athletics. But I need everyone to pay really close attention here and remember, these decisions are not decisions of the board, they're decisions of the administration. So, fall sports. Outdoor sports are going to be permitted this fall. There are a couple conditions that we have to align to. So the non-negotiables that go along with this would be that all coaches and student athletes must complete medical screenings. We started doing that when we had practices earlier this summer. We have to go back to doing that. So there's questionnaires, there's temperature checks, and you must pass the screening to be allowed to come to practice or to games. Athletes and families will be required to provide their own transportation. We are not going to transport athletes, just as we're not right now transporting our non-public students. If we want kids back in school in November, we have to put them in situations, or we can't put them in situations that we are not sure are safe. So people can make the argument that kids have been playing all summer long, but we haven't been transporting kids anywhere. And we don't want to put them in a situation where we could be putting kids in a situation where the spread of the virus could potentially affect a large number of kids. So we're not going to be providing transportation. Locker room usage is not going to be permitted. That's been in our health and safety plan for the last month, and we're not going to be opening up our locker rooms. We will be sharing some information about restroom facilities, but we will not be opening our locker rooms. Hold on to your hats, because here comes one that's probably a little bit hard to swallow. Right now, Pennsylvania is still operating under the governor's orders that no spectators are allowed at events. If and when Governor Wolf lifts that restriction, we will come back and communicate with all of you about how we will move forward with spectators. But until that happens, we're under a restriction that we absolutely cannot have spectators. Coaches and student athletes are going to be expected to continue to follow any and all protocols established by our health and safety plan for athletics and activities, and also any additional considerations to return to competitions released by the PIAA. In consultation with our local health department, One of the things that we really need to stress is that our student athletes and our students who are being involved in any type of activities, we need those students to have, at a moment's notice, a list that they could provide the health department for contact tracing. The county has contracted with a new lab, and one of the very positive things that came out of that was that the turnaround testing time is much shorter, within a day or 2 days. And we're hoping that that trend continues, because if that trend continues, we feel that that is a real positive sign for when we bring kids back to school in November. But it's really important that at a moment's notice, you as a family, that you and your student athlete or your student that's participating in activities has their contact tracing list available. Because if a student does in fact test positive for COVID, the county needs to react and engage in contact tracing right away. This is all about accountability. We need to be wearing masks. We need to be exercising social distancing when we absolutely can. We need to take this seriously, because if you think of a team or you think of a small group with an activity, if one member of that team or one member of the group that's engaging in an activity is found to be positive for COVID, through contact tracing, everyone that they've come in contact with is going to be required or could be required to quarantine. And decisions about quarantine are not relegated to the district, they're relegated to the Department of Health. And so one case on a team is one too many, and it will cause that team or that activity to have to shut down. Again, this information is all going to be summarized tomorrow in our Touch Base Tuesday. I would encourage you that if you have questions, please direct them to me. I will tell you that with the volume of emails that are coming in, I will do my absolute best to get back to everyone within 24 to 48 hours. But this information will come out in our Touch Base Tuesday. The Suburban 1 League has revised the fall schedule. They've delayed it a little bit. And we're also still waiting to hear what other districts are deciding to see if there will actually be a fall sports season. But we hope that this news brings some relief to a segment of our community that has been pretty concerned about athletics and activities. In closing, I want to remind everyone, Touch Base Tuesdays will continue for the foreseeable future. There will also be information coming out from individual buildings. Please, please, please be sure to read things that are coming out. We're going to be working as a leadership team to make sure that we are only sending out absolutely essential information, so that we're not inundating you with information. But you have my commitment, you have my leadership team's commitment, the board's commitment, our staff's commitment to starting the 2021 school year in the best way possible. So we look forward to seeing our kids back, albeit virtually. But there are good things ahead. We just have to continue to be mindful that we are living in a pandemic, and we have to follow some processes and procedures that we have in place. With that, I conclude my report.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yanni. I speak for myself, but I'd imagine for the rest of the board when I say we truly appreciate the time and care that went into all the decision making that you discussed in your report. We thank you. Next up, we do have a presentation this evening from our Food Services Department.
This is Francis. I would just like to say, as an introduction, and I'm sure Mr. Leckman might want to jump in as well. Prior to her even starting this presentation, I really want to thank Kristen Deli and her entire staff. They have gone the extra mile in making sure that our kids that needed to be fed, not only in the spring, but over the summer, have been supported. So our food insecure families have been treated very well by our food services department. And Kristen, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for supporting our kids.
Thank you so much. Well, first, thank you so much for allowing me to present this evening. I'm going to present to you very, very quickly our 2021 operational plan. Brooke, could you advance to the next slide, please? So, in order to really explain how we're going to operate in the fall, I just want to touch on how we operated through the spring and summer. I am extremely thankful and so proud of our food services team. Since we closed, we've served over 35,000 meals to our families and expect to come closer to 36,000 meals once our program concludes on August 31st. We really just owe our success to our families who participated. They were gracious when we were learning best practices. Someone described this as learning to drive and build a car at the same time. And I felt that. So our parents and our families really just helped us innovate a completely new system. All these meals were ordered from a weekly Google pre-order form that we created, which was what we found to work the best. And we really wanted to learn as much as we could from our family experiences. And we sent out a family survey towards the end of this season. And really that family survey, which we got 95% response, is what helped us frame our fall program. Could you please advance to the next slide, Brooke? Okay. This is a very simple slide showing just two of the bundles that we offered. This spring and summer, our closure service included just a mix of fresh fruits and vegetables, along with thaw and serve items, heat and serve items, and some ready-to-eat menu items as well. We can move to the next slide. Perfect. And so this brings us to where we're at for the fall. I'd really like to introduce to you the model that we've created for the Cardinal Academy. And to begin, I'd like to note that this model is operating differently than summer because we're operating under the National School Lunch Program. This means our program is available to every enrolled student in our district. The menu is based on the same nutritional guidelines as we would follow if we were in an in-person traditional school setting. Clearly, we have modifications on the delivery style. Because we thought it was important to have continuity in how families ordered meals, since we learned so much through the summer, we are continuing on with our the same style format of the pre-ordering system. We've expanded sites. Families can pick up at Sandy Run or the high school, and we are very happy to announce that we will have a home delivery service set up for families that are in need. Some major changes that you're going to see in this year's menu are the styles of what we're offering. And what we are doing this year is we're going to have two main styles. We're going to have the Heat and Eat, which is a weekly bundle of frozen entrees and some frozen sides, but they're paired with milk, fresh fruits, and fresh veggies. It's a quick once-a-week pickup. So a bundle of all the meals, breakfast, lunch for the week. And then we have our Fresh Express, and that Fresh Express option is for really, it's a predominantly ready-to-eat meal, meal bundle that we'll have ready for you twice a week. And our goal is really to offer families an option that the students could get to quickly and easily. Ms. Evans, could you advance to the next slide? Because we are in the business of supporting, we got a lot of feedback from our summer survey, and here were some of the things that we came up with in response to that survey. You're going to see on this year's model, you'll see a very limited a la carte, which can just be tacked onto your order. But we also found that during the summer, there were many siblings that were not yet enrolled, 3, 4-year-olds. And we understood that families clearly wanted to eat and model eating together. So we're just going to offer a buddy meal as a solution. A buddy meal is just a simple meal that it's the same meal that's ordered, but it's just intended for another family member. And lastly, we have our Cardinal kits. They're just quick, ready prepared meal kits for your family. They're really meant to engage and have the family cooking together. We just do all the prep for you. So quick meals, finish at home. I think that everyone would be surprised at the amount of calls we got for trying to find out what pizza we used, but we make our pizza in-house. So our first Cardinal kit is going to be our pizza kit. It'll include a pizza, salads, cookies, the whole deal. But moving forward, we're going to feature our Harvest of the Month produce in the monthly kits. Ms. Evans, would you advance, please? So we are in the business of making sure all of our families have access to food, but we need to support and we need to communicate. And we miss seeing the children very much, and we really wanted to create a way to engage with them even though we're not together. And so we created our first ever cookbook, and it's going to have not only safety information and nutrition education, but quick recipes for heating our offerings, plus activities for the kids and messages from our team. We also know that new systems in the virtual world can be completely overwhelming. So we've created very, very quick little videos and screen shares to walk you through some of our new processes, really touching on those frequently asked questions. And Ms. Evans. And we have realized how crucial it is to be very succinct with our communication. And so what we did was we created one go-to document. We call it Quick Clicks. And it's a page that has all things food service in one document. Here you're going to find all that you need, any link that you need to fill out a form, our menu, our cookbook, community resources, contact information, all provided in one area. Could you advance? Just as a reminder to our families, we encourage all families to use schoolcafe.com, whether it be to apply for free or reduced meals, to check your bounds, load funds, etc. But we want you to know, as a department, we are still here. Myself, our Assistant Director, Brittany Frazier, as well as all of our teammates, we're fully committed to serving you and meeting the needs of your family. And one last slide, Brooke. And lastly, I just want to say thank you for listening to our plan. I really want to touch on this while I have the opportunity. I want you to know that participation is the key to our success and the only thing that's going to help us continue building this program. And over the closure, I have received calls and emails from so many good intentioned families, and they were declining to participate. And really they were declining in hopes that someone else would be able to take their place. And that's just simply not how our program works. We need as much participation as possible. We need everyone to have access. The more that our families participate, engage, the more that we have to offer, the less waste that we have, and the greater ability we will have to fill our kitchens with the staff that know your children. So thank you again for your time this evening, and we look forward to seeing you on September 8th.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I have to tell you, I talked about this at the top of the meeting about the positives that we really can focus on in the midst of all this turmoil. And that presentation was one of the best feel-good things about the last few months. Kudos to you, to your team, the care that you put in, the kinds of offerings for family. That Cardinal kit, man, I think that sounds like a great idea. We should all be doing more of that. So I just can't thank you enough on behalf of the board, and really just terrific. So thank you so much. Does any member of the board have any questions for Ms. Deli? People are stunned into silence, Kristen. You've mesmerized them. So again, I just encourage the community to heed Kristen's words. Please, if you would like to participate, we encourage it. It's kind of an amazing thing to think that not only are we an educational institution, we are a support for the whole community. So thank you very, very much again.
Thank you so much.
And now that leads us up to the next item for this evening, which is the next community input, or first community input rather. For many of you in the attendee group this evening, this may be your first time joining us via Zoom or at a board meeting in general. We ask that you state your name and where you reside in the township. This particular community input is reserved for agenda items for tonight. It can also address items that Dr. Yanni spoke about in his presentation. We do keep this community input reserved for our residents and our taxpayers. We also record this, just so you're aware. And we just asked you to be aware that you have 4 minutes for your comments. I'm able to see the attendee names on my screen. If you are interested in making a comment, please raise your hand using the raise your hand feature in Zoom. And I can then start calling on folks in the order that is intended. My goodness, I think everyone's very tired. It's right now, I don't see, oh, there's one. Okay. All right. I want to get this right. Is it Falski? I believe I've enabled you to talk and unmute.
What happened? Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Something is happening with my computer.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I unfortunately cannot hear you now.
I can hear you.
Okay, I can see you signaling, yes, but I don't know what has happened now to my audio. Is this the appropriate time to discuss the private busing? Or no?
Unfortunately, Dr. Yanni, we haven't
I might need
talked
to
about that.
enable to chat or something. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening to my computer.
That's okay.
Let me mute myself and let me see if I can hear your...
Mrs. Francis, it is an agenda item, so it can
Oh,
be.
you're right. My apologies. Yes, this is an appropriate time. I'm sorry. I'm so darn confused sometimes when the technology goes awry. So, yes, you may proceed.
I apologize. I cannot hear anything right now.
Can
I
you
was
hear it
hearing
now?
having no issues at all, and now I don't know
Okay.
what the problem
Mrs.
is.
Francis,
Yeah.
we do have a written comment from this community member, so perhaps her comments were in a written statement, in which case we'll be reading
Okay.
that material.
Okay, I'm going to try to reach out to her, and if you can go ahead.
Yes, okay, I'll begin with the written comments then. And I will start with Mrs. Falski's comments, and she resides in Ambler. So her comment read, "My name is Jennifer Falski, and I reside at 1871 Farmview Road. This is the 11th year my husband and I will have a student at CCA, and it is unacceptable that you are not going to provide busing for private school students this year. Not only do these 7 families pay school taxes, the district also received funding from the state for transportation, so this service is already funded. Being an educator myself, and also from the recommendation of the American Academy of Pediatrics, our children will receive a better education while in the physical school building versus virtual learning. Currently, by withholding transportation from paying citizens, you are denying us the right of a better education for our children and our right for school choice. Not only is this service already paid for, you are also not spending budget money on transportation of public school students or the maintenance of district buses. The district will also overall be saving money on utility bills for the next 3 months, as students will not be in the school building. So overall, Upper Dublin will be making a profit over the next few months. It's interesting to see that one of your 2020-2021 budget priorities is to ensure transparency, to increase communication and foster trust. This decision is not one that will move you in the direction of that goal. As elected officials, seemingly desiring to have all children's best interest at heart for their education, this decision is wrong on many, many levels. I am asking you to reverse this decision and to provide busing for private school students for the 2020-2021 school year, even while Upper Dublin students are virtual. It is already funded, these families have paid taxes for it, and it is the best way for our students to receive an education. If you are unwilling to send a bus, even though many other surrounding districts are busing non-public students, I would ask you how you are spending the transportation budget. Will you reimburse parents for their gas and mileage? Will you reimburse if we need to hire a taxi service? I look forward to discussing this issue at the meeting this evening." Would you like to
Thank you.
continue?
Thank you, Ed. I can hear everyone now, and I am unmuted, I believe. So thank you for reading my comments. I appreciate
Sure.
that.
Mrs. Frantic, would you like me to continue with the other written statements? I think she's on mute.
Amy, you're muted. Amy,
Prefer to get the lot.
We can hear you now.
Okay, that was strange. I apologize. I'd probably like to go with the live folks that have been waiting to make a comment, and then have the others read at the end, if you don't mind.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I have a Mr. Keith Herzog. I believe you're ready to unmuted. There you go.
Yeah, thank you. Basically, it's my comment. About school for private school patients, busing for private school patients. Can you hear me?
I can, yes, go ahead.
Oh, all the things that Dr. Yanni just said were the issues we have. We're attending CCA, two of our children are going to CCA, and we need busing. That's the bottom line.
Okay,
So everything that she very succinctly and eloquently stated in the written comments apply.
okay. Thank you. Next, I have Ms. Jennifer Kuznets.
Hi there, Jen Kuznets, Fort Washington. I just wanted to thank Dr. Yanni for making a decision to allow students to participate in sports and I guess extracurricular activities, and just to get a little clarification, if clubs and things of that nature that were typically an indoor activity, if they found a way to move their meetings outdoors, would they be allowed? I guess, you know, just to get some clarification, like, I don't know, whatever clubs there are. I'm just wondering, like yearbook, would if they meet outside and they're, you know, allowed to do those kinds of things, is that all it takes, is simply to move things outdoors? I guess that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ginny. Oh, things are moving on my screen. Ms. Ginny Heiss. Ms. Heiss, you may need to unmute yourself. Okay, she has disappeared from my screen. Hopefully she'll come back. Mr. Larry Jakubowicz.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, probably a similar question to what.
Can you just let us know your name and where you reside?
I'm so sorry. It does say Larry Jakubowicz, but this is Jamie Jakubowicz.
Okay, thank you.
Fort Washington. Jen had just mentioned indoor. My question is, Dr. Yanni had referenced all outdoor sports can move forward, but there is an indoor sport of volleyball, and we're looking for clarification as to whether that is going to move forward.
Thank you. Next, I have Ms. Jenny Vitella.
Hi, how are you? Jenny Vitella, Ambler. I want to also thank Dr. Yanni for allowing the parents to make the choice to have their kids participate into fall sports. I am very, very grateful. There's an abundance of reasons why sports and athletics are very important for kids, and it helps with their academics. It is a part of Upper Dublin experience, education, academics, activities. I too wanted to know about the indoor situation, what matrix are being used for indoor activities, and especially as we might think about the winter season. I know, I'm sorry, you just voted on fall, or you just stated on fall, but thinking about winter and indoor, because at the moment we're allowed, 25 people. We are technically allowed a hybrid situation. And I get how we've gone virtual for education, but not sure why a hybrid under the, a moderate level of cases would not allow hybrid to work for activities and other sports if we followed the state guidelines for that, with the number of people allowed in the building, blah, blah, blah. And there's other schools that are allowing kids to go in to learn. So I'm not sure why kids couldn't go in for robotics or, let's say, volleyball or water polo. Also, I totally understand the no spectators is not really our call, although I know on an outdoor setting or in a stadium, it could be easily done by setting cones up and staying 6 feet apart and wearing masks. So I'd like to look into that further, and hopefully the governor loosens up that, because we've been doing that all summer and it's been wonderful. And but I am okay with that, because my kid can get to play sports. Let me tell you, I will sit home for 365 days if that's what it took. So I'm so grateful for that. So I don't want that message to be lost. That being said, I'm hopeful that we get video cameras or drones or anything else so that parents can watch from home. And maybe parents can help with that too. And I'm also very happy families are willing to transport. I know that. And I know people that might not be able to drive or might not have a ride. I know there's families that are willing to do that, mask up and work together and make this happen. I love the thinking outside the box, coming up with solutions, not barriers. We don't want problems. We just want solutions. And we are all going to work on this together. And we are so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Susan, is it Torrenson? Your name disappeared from my screen. I apologize if I said that incorrectly.
Yes.
Torrenson.
Torrenson, correct.
Thank you.
I guess I'm just too looking for a rationale of why busing can't be provided for the private schools. There's plenty of protocol that will be in place, I'm sure, in November, assuming that the public schools will then start busing again. Why can't we be the guinea pigs, if you will, and just, allow us as parents to allow our kids to be on the bus, and then prove to everyone that this is safe and it is okay, and therefore not inconveniencing us for the school year of not getting, or inconveniencing us to get the kids to school. So it's a huge inconvenience, and like others have mentioned, it's paid for. So I want more than just, we decided not to do it because the public schools are closed. We need a rationale that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. I am not seeing any additional hands raised in the attendee area, so I am going to close the verbal portion of the feedback now, and then I'm going to ask Mr. Diazio to go ahead and read the written feedback, please, or comments.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Forensic. The next comment that I have here is from Meredith Epstein of Fort Washington. The comment reads, I am very grateful for the hard work of the leadership team in planning for this upcoming year and their great communication with the parents and community. I would like to hear from the board why the metrics for returning to in-person learning are based on all of Montgomery County and not specifically our community. According to the Montgomery County COVID-19 dashboard, Upper Dublin makes up less than 2.5% of the cases in Montgomery County. Additionally, what is being done to ensure we have adequate staffing for a return to in-person learning once the case metrics are met? Thank you. The next comment would be from Alessia Karachi from Ambler, and the comment reads, when are Upper Dublin bus services planning to be restored? Any solution for parents of kids attending private schools outside of Upper Dublin but residing in Upper Dublin District? The next comment here is from Keith Herzog, who I believe we heard briefly from in the verbal session, but I will read the comment here. He states, I'm writing to you as one of the many parents or families who not only want but need and deserve school bus service to and from school come this fall 2020. I understand that the local school boards / districts are exercising their best judgment and discretion in keeping many schools closed this fall. Although it is not the main purpose of this note, as a physician practicing general pediatrics in an academic setting and board certified in the subspecialty of pediatric infectious diseases, I think this is a huge mistake. While there are, of course, exceptions, the information to date, both from the United States and many other countries, demonstrate that the percentage of COVID-19 cases occurring in children is relatively small. Most illness, if symptomatic, is mild, and the transmission rate from these children to vulnerable contacts is low. On the other hand, what I call the collateral damage of the putative preventative strategy of closing schools is huge. I think few parents would argue that the virtual learning yield compares favorably with the face-to-face instruction, or that the crucial socialization experience can be replicated. It is very clear that in scenarios of extended shutdown, the incidence of child abuse, domestic violence, addictive behaviors, and depression have skyrocketed. And this does not even begin to address the pressure on parents in terms of handling children at home and job obligations. Of note, both the American Academy of Pediatrics and the CDC have officially taken this stance. While we made our decision to enroll at a faith-based school many months ago, independently of COVID, we obviously are still paying taxes and see no reason why we should not have the expected benefit of busing. And the next and final comment that I have in written form this evening is from Helene Cape, who is the secretary of the UDSD bargaining unit. It says, "Dear President Francic and members of the board, my name is Helene Cape, and in addition to being a taxpayer, I am writing to you specifically on behalf of the Upper Dublin Educational Support Personnel Association. It is our opinion, based on the language of our collective bargaining agreement, that the administration has improperly proposed to demote some members of our bargaining unit while engaging in the contractual furlough procedure for others. Some were properly furloughed by classification, while others were demoted by position. If the board approves these demotions, then it is our further opinion that our collective bargaining agreement provides full benefits for all who are demoted for the duration of the 2020-2021 school year. Thank you for your consideration of these issues. Helene Cape, Secretary, Upper Dublin Education Support Personnel Association." That concludes the written comments that were received for this evening.
Great, thank you so much. With that, I will close community input and turn it over to Dr. Yanni to address any of the items.
Thank you, Mrs. Francic. So regarding sports and activities, outdoor sports and activities will be able to continue. Indoor athletics are a no right now. We'll continue to reevaluate, but right now they're a no. In terms of activities that would normally meet inside, can they meet outside? We will evaluate that in the future if it looks like our closure will be longer than expected, but we're not looking at translating any indoor activities into outdoor activities at this time. Regarding non-public transportation, and I apologize because I know this is going to be an answer that the folks on here that spoke tonight don't want to hear. When we were planning to bring our students back into school, we were going to be providing a opt-out for transportation. When we decided to go virtual, Pennsylvania School Code says that we have to provide identical transportation to non-publics that we provide to our own students. We are not suspending transportation to non-publics for financial reasons at all. They truly safety reasons. We cannot put kids in a situation that we are not sure if we're putting them in harm's way. What I'll say is, yes, there are some districts that are going to transport or their non-publics. I don't agree with the statement that we should allow those kids to be guinea pigs. It's not how I operate. So we're not going to be transporting non-publics. We will continue monitoring it, and we'll resume non-public transportation when we return to in-person instruction in the district. Finally,
So then how do you propose that we get our students to school, Dr. Yanni?
Finally, in response to the letter that was just read from Helene Cape, had I been given the opportunity to speak about that letter, I could have addressed Mrs. Cape's concerns. Robin Picari, the president of UDSD, and her leadership team and our leadership team have been in constant communication, and we will follow up tomorrow with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any board members that have any comments or questions, not questions, comments regarding public comment? Mr. Sirota.
Thank you. I wonder if maybe Mr. Leckman could clarify regarding state reimbursement for transportation. Will we be receiving reimbursement for this period when we are not providing transportation?
So state reimbursement for transportation happens on an annual basis, and what we will receive in the 2021 school year is actually reimbursement for the transportation program that we provided during the 2019-2020 school year. So next year, we should expect to receive significantly less subsidy from the state because it's based on a calculation, an enormous calculation, but that takes into account how many buses are on the road, how many miles they're transporting, and how many students we're transporting. So next year's reimbursement based on this year's transportation program will be much less.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Ropsky?
Yes, a couple comments. Just want to note, I heard on KYW that, 7 SEP employees have died from COVID. So I just want to throw that out there. If it would be safe for spectators, I would think the baseball leagues would have fans in the stands. I think the basketball leagues would have fans in the stands. And I think the hockey leagues would have fans in the stands, but they don't. On busing of private schools, Dr. Yanni, would we, if we were to decide to bus kids to private schools that are open, would we contact the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and then they would contact, just say, Bucksmount Transportation Services to transport those kids? And if that was the case, could we still do that without violating any of the bus drivers if there's a contract with them or in violation of any contract? And I think that was my comments.
Thank you. Dr. Levinowitz?
Just wanted to comment about the sports. As the community knows, the emails went to all board members. I wanted to thank our president, Ms. Francic, for responding to, I believe, every email that went to the entire board. But also, I do want to stress that this decision was made together with Dr. Yanni and the board. Although it's a leadership administrative decision, of course, Dr. Yanni seeked and received input from the entire board on an individual basis. We spoke to him. We each gave him our opinion in terms of where we think sports should be. And that this is another example of the team of 10, which is the school board and the superintendent, then working with his leadership team, making a decision that I believe we all support. I think that needs to be emphasized.
Mr. Ropsky. No? Okay. And lower hand. Excellent. All right. Thank you for your comments. I just want to make our attendees aware that once public input is closed, if you would like to speak again later on, there is a second opportunity for community input. You can raise your hands at that time and we will go through the similar process. Now we'd like to move on to some of our other business for this evening. Mr. Leckman, are there any announcements or communications?
There are none this evening.
Thank you. And do we have any minutes?
Yeah, so included for the board's action tonight is item B, which are the minutes from the July 27th legislative meeting. Item A are the committee minutes, are for information only.
All right, so I do need to have a motion here for the approval of the July 27th, 2020 legislative meeting minutes.
So moved.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the legislative meeting minutes from July, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. The minutes have been approved. And now we're going to get into our committee meeting segment of the meeting, where each of our committee chairs discusses items from their committees from last month. So Mrs. Sherpier, Education Committee, please.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Franczek. We have 5 items. Items A to D were all discussed during the Education Committee meeting. So I would like to make a motion to accept items A to D. Item E is for information only, so that we do not need to vote on.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, the items are approved. Mrs. Sherpier, looks like no technology recommendations this evening.
That's
Perhaps student services recommendations.
Yes, we have items A to I. All but one was discussed, I believe, in the Education Committee meeting. Most the service agreements are renewals for contracts, and then I think there were. Let me see. Yes. So I think we can make a motion for all items A to I, unless there are any questions about that anybody wants to talk about.
I think that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Make the motion first and then have discussion.
All right. That's
I'll
right. I'm sorry. So I'd like to make a motion to pass or to accept items A to I.
Sure. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? All right, seeing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. The items are approved. Now we have Finance Committee, Mr. Sirota.
Thank you. We have 7 items up for the Finance Committee tonight. I'm going to take them in 3 groups. First, we have items A and B, our regular monthly financial items, and I'll make a motion to approve both of those.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you.
Before we vote, I just want to call out in item B, there are, and this was discussed at Finance, but just for everybody's benefit, there are some new reports that we'll be seeing monthly attached under item B under other financial reports, some of which are directly related to the COVID situation. So those will be ongoing for us at Finance Committee until there's no longer a need for those.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions now that we have a first and second? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The items are approved. Moving on to our personnel report,
Nope,
Dr.
I've got some more items first. Amy.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got excited there.
Next up, I'd like to make a motion to approve items C, D, E, and G. These were either discussed at finance. I think Zoom licenses was not discussed at finance committee, but has been discussed in the past. So I'll make a motion for items C, D, E, and G.
Very good. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, those items are approved.
And last, we have item F, the suspension of public and non-public transportations. This is to affirm the earlier decision to suspend public and non-public transportation until the district resumes in-person instruction for Upper Dublin students, except to the extent required by law.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Any comments or questions? All right, I think Dr. Yanni did a good explainer on exactly the rationale that we've used. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. All right, did I get them all that time, Mr. Sirota?
Yes, we did. Thank you very much.
All right. All right. Now my computer is frozen, but there we are. Personnel report, Dr. Levinowitz.
Yes, moving on to personnel. We'll split it up. We'll do A and then B. Item A is the list of furloughs and demotions. The description in terms of what we're doing is on the screen, so I'm not going to read the entire thing, but hopefully the community can read and see what we're doing. I believe that that's appropriate, Mr. Diasio. I don't need to read it.
That's correct.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve item A, which is the list and descriptions of furloughs and demotions.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sirota. Any comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, I have a comment. I think it might be helpful for the community to understand why this is happening.
Yes, thank you. I agree.
I'll be happy to answer that, Mrs. Francis and
Thanks.
Mr. Sherpier. So during the period of virtual instruction, we spent a considerable amount of time working with UDSD leadership on the positions that were not going to be needed during that period because we're in a virtual environment. What we did was we went position by position, and when we met with our staff to let them know that they were going to be temporarily furloughed or demoted, we did so with a very clear statement that this is not about devaluing them or devaluing their position. It's simply a ripple in the pond of the virtual period. So our hope, once we're back with in-person instruction, our hope is that we will be able to recall all of those folks at that time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Any other board
just
members?
to add to that, and I'm sure Dr. Yanni I'm sure mentioned this too, is while we did our through March through the end of June, because of a state law, Act 13, all of the support staff were being paid during that time. So this is a change that Act 13 is no longer in effect, and we are now moving forward with the furloughs and demotions for those individuals that will not be working during this period of time.
Thank you. I know it's certainly been a difficult couple of weeks with that. So thank you, Dr. Yanni and Ms. Kitten and the HR team. We have a first, I believe. We have a second. I don't see any other hands raised from the board with questions or comments. Therefore, all in favor of approving the furloughs and demotions, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The item is approved. Dr. Levinowitz.
Okay, moving on to the second item, that would be the motion to approve our monthly personnel report in total.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sirota. Any comments or questions from the board?
I have two points I'd like to make as chair of personnel. One is I'd like to congratulate, we have 10 professional staff moving from the temporary professional employees to permanent professional employees. Means that they have their tenure. The names are listed in the report, but I just want to give a shout out and congratulate to them that they welcome to the Upper Dublin family, and we look forward to a long career with you. The other item is a sad piece of information, which is the Mr. John Downey, who was with the district for 34 years as our grounds worker and facilities, who passed away last month. Our sincere condolences from the board and from the district to his family.
Thank you very much. Absolutely, we echo those sentiments. We have a first, a second, comments. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the personnel report, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, the item is approved. Moving on to Policy Committee, Mr. Wallach.
Thank you, Ms. Franczyk. We have 2 second readings and 2 second reading repeals. I want to do A and B first, all of which was discussed at our Policy Committee meeting this past month. For second reading approvals, we have 901, the Public Relations Objectives Policy, and 913, the Non-School Organizations, Groups, Individuals Policy. For second reading repeal, it's 902, Publications Program, and 911, News Media Relations. And as we discussed, these 2 are being repealed because they're now captured in other areas, specifically administrative regulations under one of the other policies. So I'll make a motion to approve items A and B, the second reading and second reading repeals.
Thank you. Second. Thank you, Mr. Sirota. Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The items are approved.
And now I'd like to move on to the first reading. We have 3 policies that were discussed at committee this month that are up for first reading. It's P103, which is discrimination, Title IX, sexual harassment affecting students, P146.1, trauma-informed approach, and P247, hazing. Just a quick note on these. P146.1 is being proposed for first reading. It's a very important policy in terms of trauma-informed approaches to education that the district is seeking to implement. The other 2 first reading policies for this month are being proposed to address the new Title IX regulations that have taken effect. And just a side note that the number of 103, we discussed this as policy, but just so everyone's clear, our current policy 103 also has an equity component that states our school district's equity policy. That's not going to be replaced, even though we're not seeing it in, or displaced, even though we're not seeing it here in this proposed first reading, but is going to be brought back in a different number as we explained at Policy Committee. So with all that said, I'll make a motion to approve the 3 policies listed for first reading in item C.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sirota. Any other questions from the board? Comments? Seeing none. All in favor of approving the first reading of these items?
Aye.
Aye.
Say aye. Thank you. Forgot that important part. Any opposed? All right. The item C is approved. Thank you. I am not seeing any other business this evening. And for our liaison committee reports, as is our new practice, we have a written report attached to the agenda regarding liaison committees and what they've been up to. You can certainly, community members may return to that document and review it at your leisure for your review. The solicitor's report, Mr. Diazio.
Yes, thank you. I have the executive session announcements since the last public meeting, and the dates for those executive sessions were August 5th, August 11th, and August 24th. Matters of personnel and safety were discussed at the August 5th and August 11th executive session, and the August 24th executive session, which was immediately prior to the public meeting this evening, was regarding personnel matters. that were on the agenda for board action this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diazio. We're now up to our second opportunity for community input. Just a quick reminder again, please state your name and where you reside in the township. Please also be aware that we are recording your comments, and I will do my best to unmute you. Just give it a second. Sometimes it takes a moment for that to engage, and you may go ahead and begin raising your hands in the chat room. I will start with Kevin Portney, who was patiently raising his hand throughout. Mr. Portney, you may unmute, Mr. Portney. All right, if Mr. Portney comes back, we can allow him to speak. Next up is Jennifer Fauske.
Yeah, Jennifer Fauske from Maple Glen, and I again just Fauske. That's fine. It's not the first or last time. So I again just want to appeal to the decision of this board for our tax dollars not getting. I'm sorry, I'm going to continue to go here, and you just voted to not provide us transportation. But I'm not sure where the other man got his information about the funding, because I actually have a letter from House of Representatives Majority Leader Kerry Benninghoff, and he has written a letter on August 13th to the Secretary of the Department of Education, and it states this: your office and Pennsylvania's 500 school districts remember, despite these uncertain times, the legislature intentionally fully funded education for the entire year so school districts would have the tools they need to return students to in-person education. So you have the funds from the state, you have the funds from the taxpayers. You've heard from a doctor. You have been given legitimate sources of why this is the best reason for our kids to go back to school. I'm an educator myself. I appreciate all your hard work and your time. I know this has been a crazy, unprecedented time with a pandemic, and it's a lot of hard work. Like you said, there's no playbook for this, and I totally understand that. But if you really desire what's in the best interest of students in the entire district, you will provide some method of transporting our students to school. I appreciate you, Mr. Ropsky, for your recommendation of maybe going through the IU and allowing Bucksmont to transport our students. But there has got to be a way for the district to be able to provide transportation for our students. It's just not fair. And I really feel like you're playing a power card and you're abusing your power and you're just saying we're not doing it. We have yet to hear a legitimate reason as to why you are not doing it. The money is there. The reason for our students to be back in school has been supported. And there's about 9 children that have to go to Calvary. That's one large bus. They can be safely separated, they can wear masks, and they will be able to get back in school safely. I would just really appreciate that you reconsider or come up with an alternative method to get our students to school, if you really have the best interest of all students receiving the best education they can this school year. Thank you.
Whoops, thank you. Mrs. Jenny Vitello.
Hi, Jen Vitale, Ambler. I just had a question. I've actually been asked from other community members, and I do want to clarify that a lot of times when I speak at these meetings, I know it's only me, but I'm actually speaking for many people that ask me a lot of questions, and then I present them. People are sometimes intimidated, they're not logged in, they're not used to going to meetings, and so they ask me to ask for them because they know I do. So I just want you to know sometimes when I ask questions or make comments, they're not all just mine. With that being said, someone is wondering if the outdoor sports, allowing outdoor sports also will apply to Sandy Run Middle School. Obviously those fields were not usable in the spring or last fall, but we did work at Maple Glen and other fields around the area. So that was that question. And I just wanted to comment about the fans and spectators. I think that Upper Dublin football would probably be arguably the sport that would attract the most spectators. And if they could come up with 70,000 like the Phillies or Eagles, I think they'd be thrilled. But that is not the case. Usually it's just a mom and a dad and maybe a sibling or two that has to suffer through an older sibling's games. Anyway, I just want to thank you again for allowing fall sports, letting parents decide, and we are going to do this. I know it. Let them play. Thank you.
I have, I believe it is Larry Jacobowitz.
Hi, it's Jamie Jacobowitz again.
Jamie, sorry.
Washington. That's okay. It does come up, Larry. It's fine. So I understand Dr. Yanni had answered my question before about the indoor sport of volleyball. I don't want to make this about me or my daughter's experience as a senior. However, I just speak for all of volleyball. The state has put out, there are moderate risk, low risk, and high risk sports. And I just find it really very unfair that all the other sports, some of them being high risk, and I don't want to take away from their sports because I want all sports to be in play and be an option for everybody. But volleyball is a moderate risk sport. And I know that, I don't know for a fact, but I assume it's because the school is going to be closed and therefore we can't utilize the indoor facilities. But I'm just wondering if there is any way to utilize some other facility. Taking busing out of it, I would be happy to drive as many as my car can hold, but we as a community can work it out, but we want to have our volleyball players to have the same opportunities as all of the other Upper Dublin High School fall sports kids will be allowed to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kuznets?
Hang on there. Ooh.
Are you there?
Am I there?
Yep, now you are.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No problem.
Jen Cousins for Washington. I just had a quick question. I'm wondering just about enrollment. I saw the numbers were down about 100, a little over 100 students, and I'm just wondering how many cyber students we have at this point. I know that is a significant cost to the district, so I was just curious about that. And then just on a like I've got, for families who have like incoming high school students, even though they're going to be virtual, I could still see some kids maybe ending up in the wrong spaces and spots, trying to figure out the schedule and navigating the schedule. So what kind of, I guess, will there be some sort of resource to maybe help families who are transitioning into buildings, like from elementary into middle or middle into high school, to get a little coaching on the schedule and kind of what to expect as far as that goes? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Portney, I'm going to try that one last time. I see your hand still raised. Are you there? Okay. Not hearing any other voices and seeing no additional hands raised, I'm going to go ahead and close community input.
I'm right here. I'm right here, sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my question goes back to the no spectators. I'm a coach for Upper Dublin recreational soccer. And as far as we know right now, we are having parent spectators. The players are on one side of the field and the spectators are on the other side of the field. And I know we're gonna social distance as much as possible. Was that discussed with them at all, the Upper Dublin recreational, about them having spectators and the high school or Upper Dublin not having any spectators?
All right.
Are you there?
Yes, we got it. We got your comment, and I'm going to officially close community input and then see if we can address some of the items. Yep.
Amy,
okay.
There's one more hand raised in there.
I believe I call. Oh, Ellen. Is it Levin or Levin? Go ahead.
Hi, this is Ellen Levin from Maple Glen. My question to Dr. Yanni is, a few weeks ago you talked about getting more involved with some of these childcare options that'll be happening during virtual school. And I've seen a ton of different options that are coming available, but I didn't know how involved the district was in helping set up some of these programs, or a lot of these places doing it themselves. And then is there any oversight in them going forward?
Thank you. All right, I believe we've got everybody. Hands are still raised, but those folks have spoken. So I thank everyone who's contributed this evening. I'm going to close it now. And Dr. Yanni, have any comments for that set of community input?
Sure. Thank you, Mrs. Francic. So with response to the letter that was referenced that the state has fully funded education, fully funding education is a relative term. The state does not fully fund education. They have fully funded it in their budget for this year, the money that they were willing to reserve for education, although they've been very clear that education is one of the only areas of the state budget that has been put on a 12-month cycle. So in October and November, there will be more budget negotiations, and there's every expectation that public education will lose funding. I want to remind everybody that the state subsidy that folks are referring to for transportation is a fraction of the overall cost of what our transportation costs are. I don't want anyone leaving this meeting thinking that the transportation subsidy from the state covers the entire bill for transportation, because it doesn't. Again, it's just a fraction it just covers a fraction of it. Transportation, we run our own transportation, so we're not outsourcing to Bucksmont or any other model like that. In terms of valid reasons for not transporting kids, I'll go back to something someone said in the first public or community input period, where they said, you know, that let our kids be guinea pigs. I'm not willing to let kids be guinea pigs. I don't think we should put kids in that situation. That said, we'll keep an eye on the folks that are transporting, and if we think we can do it safely, we will reevaluate it at that time. I also want to assure everyone that this is not a power play or we're not pulling a power card at all. We actually transport about 400 students to 40 private and parochial schools, all with different schedules. We decided to go virtual on the night of July 27th, and the schools were notified of such. So we'll keep an eye on that. In terms of coaching kids on the high school schedule, absolutely. There will be some opportunities to help kids get acclimated with their schedule and what that looks like, particularly for kids transitioning from 5th to 6th grade and from 8th to 9th grade. So please stay tuned for information from your buildings. Outdoor sports, just to reiterate, all outdoor sports, Sandy Run and the high school. You know, the fields are still offline over at Sandy Run. So we will be identifying alternate locations just as we did last year. Spectators at events, again, that's not a Steve Yanni rule. It's not an Upper Dublin rule. It is a restriction that the governor has put out. So we will connect with the community programs to let or to just remind everybody, we don't have jurisdiction over them, but we'll be following that restriction. And again, just to remind everyone, if or when the governor lifts that restriction, we'll absolutely reevaluate it at that time. For the programs that are going to be in place, whether it's through the YMCA or Chelton or Momentum or any number of programs, the district is collaborating. We're not endorsing or sponsoring any program, but we are providing some information to those programs about how to support kids. And I believe that's it, Mrs. Francic.
Thank you. I see a couple board members who would also like to comment. Mr. Ropsky?
Yes, thank you. I'm looking here. There was a question about volleyball. Perhaps we could have volleyball outside, maybe partner with the township with one of their beach volleyball courts at Mondock Park. I'm not sure. I know my son used to play over there several years ago. I don't know the condition of the court, but perhaps me, Mark, and Dr. Yanni could talk about that at our next township liaison meeting. And to the person who asks questions for other people to the board because they're too shy, I would suggest that they can also email. And if the email doesn't work, perhaps the person who does ask the questions could say, this is the question, it's from this person, so that staff or Dr. Yanni or the board members could reply directly to that person if they have a question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I see Ms. Ioniti, please.
Thank you. Yes, I wanted to say something. Dr. Perez is making great progress with our equity audit, and that is in the liaison report. So if you are interested in that, please look at what she's doing. And it just made me, when I think about her equity work and also the trauma-informed approach we're taking, the anti-hazing policy that we're working on, it all ties back to mental health. And we received a lot of emails where parents talked about the mental health of their kids. And I'm glad that that stigma is going away and that our community cares so much. And for all of the parents who were distressed and upset that their kid might lose this opportunity and suffer some mental health consequences, I hope that you will support these other programs that we have going on that maybe are not meant for your kid, but for other kids who need this equity support, who need this trauma-informed approach. And I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ioniti. Mr. Sirota?
I just want to acknowledge there was also a question about enrollment and how many have left us for charter schools.
Yeah.
Before you answer that, Steve, I just want to, it's interesting to note, as I look at the enrollment chart, most of the enrollment change is in kindergarten, which I think is completely unsurprising given the situation. The compulsory age has dropped from 8 to 6, but still there are plenty of kindergartners who are below that age, and so parents do have the option of maybe this isn't the year. But so Steve, where are we with enrollment and cyber and charters?
So we are at 17 confirmed students going to cyber charter school. There are some other families that are still undecided, and in one of the things that I'll mention in tomorrow's Touch Base Tuesday, we will address what kids going to cyber school can and cannot participate in back here in the district. We've had a number of questions about if parents enroll their kids in cyber charter, can they partake in various offerings at Upper Dublin, and we'll address all of that in the Touch Base Tuesday tomorrow.
Thank you. Mrs. Sherpier?
Yeah, I just wanted to get back to the plans that Dr. Yanni outlined for sports and other after-school activities. I think we need to be very careful to just make clear that this doesn't mean that is absolutely happening. I mean, the intent is that it's going to happen, but as the situation develops, we may have to resort back to people just coming to practice in small groups. While we look to have competition going on, I think this is still something that is a work in progress, so to speak. So absolutely, I support the idea of giving students the opportunity to practice and be with their team. But keep in mind that we still have a pandemic out there. We still have to be very careful about practicing all the things that are in place and sticking to them, and also be very honest and with reporting any issues so that we can really limit the spread and really ultimately get back to having kids in buildings, in classes, because in my mind that is absolutely essential to happen as soon as possible.
Thank you. Dr. Levinowitz?
Yes, I just wanted to remind the community that in addition to our 4 elementary schools, our middle school, and our high school, we also have the Eastern Center for Arts and Technology, which is our 7th building. And I just wanted to update, even though it's in the liaison report, that Eastern approved its health and safety plan at the last meeting. And we also approved to go virtual using the same schedule that we're doing in Upper Dublin, which is through the end of the first market period, which at which time we will reassess. A majority of the sending districts that participate at Eastern are going virtual, so it made the most sense for the parents that have students, children attending. Eastern will be following the same schedule as if you were in the building. We'll be doing a combination of synchronous and asynchronous. We're also getting toolkits to all the students involved, and we feel very confident that we're going to be very successful in a virtual program for the time being. Thank you, Ms. Francis.
Thank you. Mr. Sirota?
I just wanted to reinforce something Titia just said and state very clearly that I think it's certainly my goal, and I think everybody's goal, to actually be able to reopen in November. And so even though we have, Dr. Yanni has made the decision with board support that we will allow outdoor sports, et cetera, and other activities that can happen, that has to happen really, really carefully. Everybody needs to be wearing a mask, washing your hands, maintaining your distance all the way through November. Right now, the trend in Montgomery County for most of the graphs is headed the wrong direction. Very slowly the wrong direction, but it is the wrong direction. We need to turn that around so it's the right direction so we can reopen in November. So please, everybody who's listening, do your part. Maximize the chance that we can reopen in November. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I am not seeing any additional comments from any board members. I would like to thank each and every person who was on this call tonight.
Mrs. Francis, can I just make two comments?
Of course.
In closing, I do want to send the district's best wishes to the family and friends of John Downey, who did pass away earlier this month. Dr. Levinowitz spoke about it earlier, but when any member of our district team has something good or something unfortunate that happens, it affects everyone. As we've said before, we're one team in Upper Dublin, and so despite title or position, everyone matters. And so we want to make sure that we send our best wishes to Mr. Downey's family. And Mr. Sirota and Mrs. Sherpier sort of stole my thunder, but just to reiterate, just because we said sports will go on tonight, if things take a turn for the worse, we will need to pull back, but we will keep the community updated every step of the way. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. So our last item for this evening is just a heads up for everyone in the community about our upcoming meetings. We will be having Education Committee September 2nd, Policy September 2nd, right after Education, Finance Committee Wednesday the 16th at 6, and then our legislative meeting for the month of September, which I can only imagine will be another party, another fantastic night of fun on the 21st at 7. In the meantime, do I have any sunshine announcements, Mr. Diazio?
No other announcements beyond what was contained in my solicitor's report. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, with that, I am very grateful for this community. I am very grateful for the administration, for my board colleagues. Thank you to all. It's been a labor of love over the last few months, and we're going to keep going, and we're going to make a great start to the year. With that, tonight's meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Take care. Good meeting.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.